Hi everybody. So I'm going to start a painting and I'm going to sketch it out. So here's my process. So I'm going to do a painting of this palm tree. And so when I'm considering this sketch, I'm looking first at the main shapes and where they sit on the page. And so for this palm tree, I see that the focal point is a little bit offset. So I'm just going to point that there. And then I'm going to start to block in the main shapes. So I'm looking at, let's say, the tree trunk and just how offset from the corner, the right corner, is it? And I think it's about there. And so I start to sketch in. Now, the thing is that the sketches that I make, the lines that I make, I'm not committed to them at this stage because they're going to have to change most likely. So I'm going to get my eraser out so that it's ready. And the reason why it's going to change is because as I start to add in other details, I might find that maybe I put something a little bit too much to the left, too much to the right. And so I'm just not going to be committed emotionally to any lines that I make. Because, like, for example, I've noticed already that I put the focal point way too high. I won't have enough space to put in branches of the leaves. So it's more like here, because there will be like a round spot here. And from this point, the leaves will go up to the edges. So I'm not so worried about the details. So I can see that this leaf doesn't go right to the corner. The leaves are going to be hanging. There's a little bit of space here. So I want to make sure that I leave space for that. So I'm putting in the main branches first. Right? I'm not going to fuss over little details. Not yet. The details will come. And I notice that this line here is in the wrong spot now. So I'm just going to take it out. Going to take it out and then kind of sketch in where this branch is going to go, more or less. Okay, so there's that, and I've done this side. So I notice now the next major branch, I have to notice, like, where is it going to fall? Here. So I think it's going to probably go to this space here. Then the next one is right next to it, and it kind of is here in my photograph. So the size of my photograph is not a perfect, it's not a perfect rectangle like this piece of paper. So how is it that I'm still taking a picture that isn't quite this size and trying to put it in proportionally? That is kind of the beauty of the human brain. I'm not going to sit there and do some like calculations and mathematics and physics, right? I think that our human brain can do that somewhat intuitively with respect to proportion. And so I'm going to use I'm just going to call it, let's say, mathematical intuition to approximate it. But this is also why I'm not going to be committed to these lines, because I may have to adjust. So this whole idea of like this mathematical intuition, so to speak, is something that I kind of realized. So as a profession, I was an educator and working at different levels of the public school and private school system. And so there was some new discussions around knowledge and an intuitive knowledge that other cultures have that are different from the Western tradition, right? That are different than, let's say, the classics, the stuff that we study in school, calculus, algebra, etc. And how, how other cultures kind of know things mathematically without having to sit there and crank out their calculator and piece of paper and so on. But I really saw that in action when my son was a plumbing apprentice and we needed him to move a drain over because we were redoing a shower. And he did it perfectly, but not once did he take out a measuring tape or a calculator or anything. And I asked him, how did you know exactly how to move and at what angle? How did you know that? And he said, I just know it from experience. So I'm like, using that kind of insight and applying it to art. I think artists probably do this all the time, where they're able to kind of see proportions and kind of understand where things go, angles, without having to use instrumentation and the traditional Western mathematical processes. So I find that interesting. I actually put that to the test. I was painting a tortoise, and I thought, you know what? I wonder if I've got the proportions correct. And so I measured the proportions of the head to the shell on the photo with a ruler, and then I measured it on my sketch. And I'm happy to report that it was the exact same proportion. And all I did was just, use my eye and use my hands and let that mathematical intuition kind of do the work for me. Okay, so this is what I have. This is the main sketch of it, okay? It doesn't look like anything yet. Now, in my picture, I'm going to edit out. I don't want to copy. I want it to look realistic, okay? But I don't want to copy every little detail on this sketch, right? I'm gonna edit. I'm gonna decide what stays and what goes. I think that sometimes, when we're trying to make a picture that is realistic, we want it to look like a photograph, but we have cameras for that, and a camera is a pretty good tool at taking an exact copy of something that you see. I think that an artist has part of the artistry is to edit and interpret and keep what you want and remove what doesn't actually add to the painting and what doesn't actually need to be there. Okay, so now I have the main pieces. I'm going to add in not a lot of detail, but some of these leaves in the back, I'm going to add some of those so that when I paint, I can block them in. The other thing is, see, I noticed, I didn't notice this the first time doing this, or looking at the painting, but there are some more coconuts hiding in the back here. And I did not notice those the first time, so I'm going to add them in at this point. Yeah. Right? So again, see, that's too low. It's not about getting it exactly precise, but the difference between a painting that kind of looks a bit cartoony, maybe a little bit, less skilled, let's say, or less accurate, not skilled, accurate, is really the placement of details, which details you want to edit out, and which details you're keeping in, and how those details kind of work with each other. So for example, I've got this one branch and it curls over another one. Right, so I want to make sure I get the the movement of this one, and that is obscuring this one. Okay, and same with this. So we've got a branch here, and it kind of crosses underneath this one. Okay, so at this point, I've got everything in, so I'm going to, so the leaves, right, I'm not going to sketch in the leaves, but I'm just going to show you that the leaves will come in this way, but I don't need to sketch these with the pencil. I can do that when I'm working with the paint. Today it's going to be, I'm going to do this in gouache. It's actually the first time I'm using gouache, so that'll be part 2 of this video to see how does that go. And then some of the other details, right, like again, I don't need to sketch this in. This is just to show you where the leaves are going to go, but the leaves will go there. So this is the basic sketch. I really don't need any more than this. And then I'm going to get started with the painting. All right, so I'll see you in part 2.